Christian meditation. It's a prayer of silence. So, could I ask you, this isn't the prayer now, could I ask you to be silent? Listen, close your eyes, and listen and hear the sound of silence. Isn't that a lovely sound? Do you agree?
Yeah.
I'm sure you do. Yes. I'm going to say one sentence as an introduction to tonight. It's a double sentence, really. And this is my sentence. The first part is, Christian meditation is the simplest prayer in the world. My second part begins with a but. But Christian meditation is most difficult, especially for beginners. That is my sentence. And I'll just explain it very, very briefly. Christian meditation is the simplest prayer in the world. Why? How come? Because you're asked not to think of God, not to think of yourself, not to think of where you are, standing, sitting, lying, or whatever. And you're asked only to use one word or one phrase. What could be more simple than that? The difficult, I said, but it is most difficult for beginners because we are not used to silence. We're not used to silence. Okay, you had a lovely sound of silence as we began just a few seconds ago. But can you continue that silence for 5 minutes? For 10 minutes? For 15 minutes, for 20, for 25, for 30 minutes. Could you continue that way for 30 minutes? As a beginner, I would bet, I'd say it would be a safe bet. I would say no, you couldn't. We have John Main, by the way, that's a picture over there, see above that light, that is a picture of John Main. He died in the year 1982. But John Main has a lovely image. He says, our mind is like a tree covered with a lot of monkeys in it. And the monkeys are chattering away and jumping and flying from branch to branch. And that's our mind too. It's a lovely image of what happens in our minds. I'm thinking of, oh, I better do this shopping tomorrow. Oh, my daughter, gosh, she told me oh, I forgot all about my son also. And oh, gosh, I'm expecting a bad call from the doctor. We've so many things going on in our mind. But to spend 20 minutes, 25 minutes, the maximum, or rather the ideal is 30 minutes of prayer in total silence, saying but one word. Imagine how difficult that is. I have been meditating. I'll tell you a little bit about my story, and then Maura is going to tell you her story about how we found this prayer. But before I started, or when I started rather, I just said, this is crazy. And I started off. My mind was just, I couldn't keep silent at all. I couldn't. I was thinking of this and the other and everything else. But I found out, and if you have your little notes there, when you look at that introduction to the prayer, I'm going to read, it's not my introduction, this is an introduction in the writings of John Main, and I'll tell you a little bit more about John Main in a second. But let's read this one. Look at that now. Christian meditation is the prayer that allows God's mysterious and silent presence within us to become more and more not only a reality, but one of the great realities that gives meaning, shape, and purpose to everything we do and everything we are. I think that is a marvelous sentence. Read it, reread it, reflect on it, even that one sentence. I'm not going to repeat it, but you take home those with you and read it again and again and again. And then the second sentence, very important. This prayer is not the time for words, however beautiful and sincere, but which are wholly ineffective when we enter into the mysterious presence of God's Word, Jesus, who is before and after all our words. I'm not going to repeat that sentence, and I ask you, read it, read it, read it again and again. The little thing in parentheses, that's mine. Contemplation is the prayer of silence. And then I picked out this lovely phrase I think is marvelous. Meister Eckhart, he was a German mystic. He lived, I forget what years it was, but a long time ago. Meister Eckhart said that silence is God's language. God doesn't talk to us in words. Did you ever, anybody hands up who heard God talking to them? No? I don't think so. But God does communicate with us. Isn't that true? God does communicate, but he communicates in silence. So Christian meditation, Christian prayer then, is really a prayer of silence. So I think that introductory two sentences are very, very important. Bring them with you, keep them with you, memorize them, write them down, reflect on them. I think it's so important. Now, I'm going to say a little few words, and then Maura is going to tell you also, how did we come across Christian meditation? I entered the Redemptorists when I was 17 years of age, and I found Christian meditation when I was 51 years of age. What did I do before that? I had a Jesuit system. John Main also had the very same system that I had. He tells us actually in a little book, I'm going to mention it later. He says, and how did I meditate? I entered the novitiate. I spent a year in the novitiate in Galway, and then also, in Galway, and then also in Galway I went for 8 years before I was ordained. Then I was ordained, I went to the Philippines. I spent 20 years in the Philippines. And all that time, I was doing this prayer. Don't forget now, you have half an hour in the morning and another half hour in the evening. How did I pray? Well, I said some Hail Marys. I said one or two. I don't say one. I think always said the Our Father. But look, we were told, use the word acts, the word A-C-T-S. A-C-T-S. Adoration, contrition, thanksgiving, and supplication. That's how I spent it. And I used to, where am I now? I think I'm on the T now, so thanksgiving. Honest to goodness. John Main said he had the very same experience. But John Main, unlike me, went to India. I went to the Philippines. John Main met somebody there. I didn't meet the person who taught me when I was in the Philippines. In 1985 or 86, I'm not quite sure, I saw that there was a retreat on at High, and a man by the name of Pat Murray was giving the retreat in a house called Galilee. Has anybody ever heard of Galilee in High?
Yeah, County Roscommon.
Paula does. So I said, God, this is great. John Murray, who was he at all? I never heard of him before. So I went. The very first day after I got up in the morning, I knew I was in the wrong place. It was a retreat specially for people who had mental disabilities. John was very patient with them, and I listened, and I knew the wrong place. And Pat Murray came to me and he said, he said, you shouldn't be here. And I said, I know I shouldn't. But I said, I love the prayer that you have with these people. And I'm calling him John. Pat actually, twice a day, used to bring the people into the chapel and he used to read a little bit of scripture, give them a bit of encouragement, sat them down and asked them to be silent now for 20 minutes. And then he gave them a word. And actually the word is the word I'm going to give you later on. You probably know it, Maranatha. It's an Aramaic word. And it's the same as, come Lord Jesus. Or as we say in Latin, Veni Sanctus Spiritus. And I said to myself, what a prayer this is. He was teaching people with mental disabilities how to pray this lovely prayer. And I believe that was the beginning of my, I won't call it conversion, but it helped me so much. From that day, I was in the beginning a little bit hesitant. I wasn't sure whether this was a good prayer or not, but eventually I love it. Every morning I get up, I make the porridge for the Redemptorists here, but after I've stirred the porridge, I go up to the chapel and I sit down for half an hour and I use the Maranatha mantra. We call it a mantra. It's supposed to be, you're in the presence of God. You're not to think of Jesus, the image of Jesus in his sacred heart. You're not to think of Jesus on the cross of Calvary. You're to think of nothing else but you're in the presence of God. And that is why I say here, the very first sentence, it's a mysterious and silent presence within us, and becomes more and more not only our reality, but the great reality that gives meaning, shape, and purpose to everything we do and everything we are. That is my story, how I found Christian meditation. Maura, would you like to share your experience?
Thank you. Well, I suppose when I was brought up as a Catholic, like so many, and did all the right things, take the boxes until the children had the first communion, but whatever there were problems going on in my life, and as far as I was concerned, God was not helping me, and I was doing all the right, ticking the right boxes and doing the right prayers, and I really had kind of wandered away, and I felt when I knew my mummy would be happy that the children had done the first communion, and there's what's the other one? Yeah, that I had done what I had to do for the children, but I hadn't a deep faith that was in any way giving me life really. So I began looking for other things, and particularly it was the ones in the east. East, what are they? Oh, everybody does it when they do that. What's the one you do? Not even Catholic, no, way over the west. Transcendental was first. And yeah, a bit of yoga, but transcendental, and then over to Zen. Pardon? Zen? No, yes, but I went to Zen, yeah. And who's the ones that did the Zen over there? There's in the far side, there's loads of them. Anyway, it'll come back to me now, it's just because I'm getting better. No, it wasn't remotely Catholic religious at all. It was Eastern anyway, and yeah, East, North, West, East, West, Eastern. Yeah, and anyway, I was interested in that and reading about that and everything else. And I was working then part-time, and we were taking a crowd of students to France. And I couldn't believe it, because what I was looking in the magazines and the newspapers, where the magazines were all set out and so forth, was the Buddhist. I'm still alive. The Buddhists and the Benedictines. And I don't know if you've ever been in France and noticed their magazine, they have everything that we would not have here in a magazine. It's all clothes or house things or whatever. But they have spiritual things just out where you would get a magazine. And I was just looking for clothes or makeup or something like that, and here didn't I see the Buddhists and the Benedictines, and I think I bought about 5 magazines home to read all this. I couldn't believe it. In fact, I looked for one today, but the house is so untidy, but I kept one, you know, to prove that that's what started it all, but I couldn't find it for today. But I was so, it was just, it said something to me that God is for everybody. He's not just for us and the books that we were given at school and the way we were taught, that actually God is life of everybody, and it was just terrific, I must say. And then about 6 months or so, I began to get really interested then in the Benedictines then at home, and reading things from that they were doing, which Father John is. Then a guy came in to fix something in the house, and one of the books that I had, Benediction and the Benedict. He said he saw the book in the kitchen, and he says, "I've seen a book like that yesterday." I couldn't believe it, and it was a nun who was also a Christian meditator. And he just told me. I said, "Who is it? Who is it?" Like, I couldn't wait to see. Is there somebody else here who's got this book? And she was just as excited as I was. And then I met her, and bit to bit then she taught me about Christian meditation, and that's where it all started off. So it was a gift beyond belief, really, for which I am 22, 23 years grateful, because it just started my whole life over again, and began to see that the Christian stuff that I'm putting in inverted commas that I learned, it wasn't wrong. I was too young, or it was too booky, or whatever it was. And also, I suppose, there's something about when you go yourself to have that relationship with God. You know, it's not what somebody told you, but it's something that you've looked for, and it became so important in my life these years. So I'm so grateful. Sorry about the mistakes.
So very briefly now, I'd like to give you a little bit of the history. It's the background history of prayer in the religion of CSsR. And I mentioned this man, John Main. John Main, his name actually was born, not John, he was born Douglas Main. He was born in England of Kerry parents, and he was quite a clever man. He went to Malaya and Kuala Lumpur, and he did a lot of work in the diplomatic service for the UK, and he knew Chinese. He was very obviously a very bright person, and while he was there, he met a man called Satyananda. He was a Swami, a guru, person who had a kind of religious group that used to pray. And John Main was attracted to him mainly because he had such a easygoing and very, very attractive characterization. And he knew that this Swami used to mention going to prayer sometimes. So John, or Douglas as he was known at that time, asked, "What kind of prayer do you do? You mention prayer sometimes." Well, he says, "Do you pray?" And John, or Douglas, if I should call him now at this stage, said, "Yes, I pray." I'm sure he prayed, as he tells us actually in his book, he prayed the ACTS that I just mentioned a few minutes ago. And the Swami said, he says, "That's so different from my prayer. Come and join me." So John Douglas joined him and spent, I think he said, about a year and a half going every morning and every evening, and used to sit beside this Swami, and the Swami taught him what to say or how to say it or what to do. And that was the beginning of John Main's conversion, as I called it earlier on, from prayer, from this ACTS prayer. And actually he came back to Ireland. The family got into a little bit of financial difficulty, and he took a job in Dublin, teaching in Trinity College, teaching I forget what it was now exactly, but he brought this prayer with him. And then he kind of met somebody who asked him how to pray. And John was a bit annoyed, and he said, oh, look, read this book. And he thought this young man, he thought the book was by an author called Baker. But anyway, the young man came back and with the book of Baker. And he said, this man mentions John Cashin. And John said, oh, does he? So he said that he looked at the book and suddenly discovered John Cashin actually was a monk who lived in the 4th century. So John found out that he had a load of conferences, and he went to Dublin University. He found John Cashin's conferences, and in conference number 10, I got it actually on the internet if ever you wanted to go John Cashin, conference number 10. You can read it, it's quite long. But he found out there that John Cashin himself wanted to find out how to pray. So himself and a friend called Germanus went to Bethany, the Holy Land, to find out how to pray and what way to pray properly. And they were not satisfied. But when they came home, they discovered that they could, with permission, go to Egypt. And they went to the Egyptian desert. This is the 4th century now, and travel was by foot mainly on those days. But they went to the Egyptian desert, and they met there somebody who introduced them to other experts on prayer. I won't go into all the details. You will find it actually in a little book. I'm going to show it to you in a minute. I have 4 copies for sale, only 4 copies. There are lots of books outside, by the way, they're not for sale, but these 4 copies are for sale. But John Main describes there how he found through the Egyptian desert that the early desert fathers and mothers who escaped from civilization because of all the wars and tragedies that were going on, they went to the desert and they tried to live there a very holy life, and they learned how to pray, and they prayed this kind of what we now call Christian meditation. One word, one phrase, pray. Divest yourself of all your feelings, your emotions, and your images, and just use the word. Put yourself in poverty, in a prayer of poverty. Don't use highfalutin words. Don't tell God what God already knows. Don't tell God you're sorry, because God knows you're sorry. Well, of course, yes, he didn't say don't tell God you're sorry. I suppose we have to say some prayers, don't we? We do. But he discovered that this was the way to pray. So John, eventually, having discovered all this, decided to become a monk, a priest, and he became a Benedictine. And he went to the Benedictines, and he brought this prayer. And he was told, that's not how to pray. You go to your prayer and you do A, C, T, S. And that's the way to prayer. And John was obedient to his superiors and to his spiritual director, and that's the way he prayed. Eventually John, because he was a clever man, was sent to Canada, in Montreal. The bishop asked him to go there. And when he was there, he discovered a lot of young people were going to the East to learn how to pray. But he said, I have a prayer. And he started teaching them the prayer. And that prayer grew in Montreal. And John wrote books. And then he wrote a very famous book. That's the book that I have for sale if anybody wants to buy it. It's only $5.50. And it's called The Gethsemane Talks. He talked to the Gethsemane Carthusians in, what do you call the place? Gethsemane, yes, Gethsemane, that's why it is. Where Thomas Merton actually did. And the monks there couldn't accept it. Couldn't accept it. So, eventually though, he wrote this book, as I say, telling his experience. It's a wonderful, wonderful little book. There are just 3 talks in it, just 3 talks. One is how he discovered his meditation. The second is the how to meditate. And the third one is how to deal with problems, which we're going to ask you later on if you have any questions about what we're doing. So that's what the history of meditation is. spent a bit longer than I expected at this now. So next we have Maura. We're going to do I have a little job to do at the very back there, and I may make my way through you there, please.
I'll do this one first, Laura.
Okay.
Yeah. What is meditation? This one written so you're all right. Meditation is not a technical thing. It is an incredibly simple means of coming to deep peace at the centre of our own being. It's not about success or failure, progress or regression. It is a way of learning to just be, fully alive in harmony with oneself and with all creation. A life-giving, life-discipling, much more than a technique. As we start to meditate, we learn to go through thoughts and ideas and to rest in the depths of our own being. There we find a great space, and that's what you were kind of referring to there. The space of our spirit needs to breathe, the space to be oneself. As you know yourselves, we're so often being somebody else or what we were told was right to be, and we don't know our real selves really. It's a lifetime, of course. When you meditate, you don't need to apologise for yourself or to justify yourself. All you need is to be yourself and fully accept the gift of your own being. Because God put us in the world and He gave us something to do, and He didn't say there was something wrong with us when He sent us here. So, you know, that's a person we need to find, in a sense, and for the world. Meditation is a universal wisdom. Here you will meet it through the Christian tradition of the prayer of the heart. Christian meditation is a simple way to make the interior pilgrimage from mind to heart. And we were all reared in mind, 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 mind. I'm not saying we should go crazy the other way, but, you know, to the balance. Too much book learning, my father used to say, too much book learning. Christian meditation is a simple way to make the interior pilgrimage from mind to heart. We are so often too head-centered, caught up with the mental noise and overloadedness of our culture, and it's even more so now for young people growing up than it was for us. In meditation, we leave the noise, the thoughts, words, images to one side and allow the inner space to reveal itself. To lay aside our thoughts, we take a short word or phrase and repeat it silently, inside, silently. The important thing is to stay with the same word and say it continuously. The word or mantra we commend is one of the oldest Christian prayers, as you refer to, Father, Maranatha, come Lord. It's an Aramaic, a language that Jesus spoke, and it means come Lord Jesus. We are not thinking of the meaning of the word when we say it. We are not thinking about God, but we are being with God. And as Father said before, the things that we want to pray for, God already knows. And it's such a relief, because the lists of things that we might want to ask Him, God, to do, whether they're right for us or not, could be could be weeks you could take you to write it down. God knows anyway. And it's such a relief to be in that relationship with God and Him caring for us second by second. We're just going to have, you already mentioned Father Lawrence, so he has kind of, since Father John died, Father Lawrence has been taking meditation all over, and it's delivering very well and growing very well all over the world, because people obviously see with the noise and the must, do, noise, that other people, not just ourselves. So Father Lawrence has done great work over the last 20, 30 years, and you're just going to hear one of the readings, one of his, and then we're going to do some meditation.
begin that again, I'm sorry.
As I was sitting, now we go into silence. The work of silence. There's a story of 3 monks went to make a silent retreat like this together. And they decided to be in complete silence for the retreat. And the first evening they lit a candle as they were sitting around, and then they said, now we go into silence. And just as they were about to pray, the candle went out. And the first monk said, oh, the candle's gone out. And the second monk said, I thought we were supposed to be quiet. And the third monk laughed and he said, huh. He said, I'm the only one who hasn't spoken yet. So it's very easy to sort of make those unconscious exceptions, but see the silence as the journey you're making and as a liberation from this habit we have of constant chatter and constant unnecessary communication. We're moving to a much deeper level of communication in the silence. Just a word more about the silence. The silence is work. It's a work of attention. It begins with a little work of self-control, guarding the tongue. It then takes us into an interior dimension of silence, with the laying aside of thoughts. So it's both inner and outer. That's why we keep the physical silence, we don't speak, so that we can move beyond that first phase into this interior work. It's personal and it's communal at the same time. We really understand what it means to live in community when we agree to live in silence, because any one of us could disturb the silence. One for all and all for one. It's a fragile as well as a very powerful energy. It's the tongue and the mind. It's physical and it's digital. It's difficult because we're really symbiotically related to the digital world now and communication. So take that seriously. And there will be some withdrawal symptoms, but you'll feel better for doing it. And it is solitary, the silence, but it is also loving. You'll know, and many of you have already discovered, there is a real love to be found in that deepening silence. This is what the Cloud of Unknowing says about this work. Lift up your heart to God with humble love. Mean God himself, not what you get out of him. It's the basis of meditation. We're turning towards God as the giver, not for what we can get out of God. Indeed, hate to think of anything but God himself, so that nothing occupies your mind or will but only God. And that doesn't mean thinking about God, having pious thoughts all the time. It means setting your mind on God's kingdom before everything else. Try to forget all created things that he ever made and the purpose behind them, so that your thought and longing do not turn to reach out to them in general or in particular. Let them go. This is the work of the soul that pleases God most. All saints and angels rejoice over it, and they help it with all their might. All fiends, however, are furious at what we're doing, trying to defeat it in every conceivable way. Moreover, the whole of mankind is wonderfully helped by what you are doing in ways you do not understand. Even the very souls in purgatory find their pain eased by virtue of your work. And in no better way can you yourself be made clean or virtuous than by attending to this. Yet it is the easiest work of all, and the soul is helped by grace and has a conscious longing. So be in touch with that conscious longing that brought you here. It's not a bad thing have that conscious longing, but also know that you need grace to finish. And it can be achieved very quickly, he says. Do not give up then, work away at it till you have this goal.
And you'd see on the bottom of your page there, it says, at the very bottom, suggested prayer. And it starts there, Heavenly Father, right? And we say it slowly because maybe for a lot of you it's the first time. So it's, when we Christian meditation, people meditate anywhere over the world, this is the prayer that we all start with. So no matter where we go, it's the same prayer and the same 20 minutes or half an hour, depending on how long you'll be doing. So, can we just start?
Heavenly Father, open our hearts to the silent presence of the Spirit of your Son. Lead us into that mysterious silence where your love is revealed to all who call. Come Lord Jesus. Maranatha.
Now, this is the teacher bit, right? Put all your bits of paper on the floor. Sit up straight. Put your bottom right into the chair so that you get plenty of support. Make sure that you're really, because if you were doing this not the first time, you would be doing 20 minutes or half an hour, so you don't want to be moving, not even your feet. The only thing that can move your eyelids. So sit back into the chair because it won't be comfortable if it'll be awkward as you go on. And wriggle up here just so that you plenty of support. And then let the hands fall gently so that they can stay. And then we close the eyes.
Okay.
And this is the instructions here for the first time. Sit down. Sit still with your back straight. Close your eyes lightly. Then interiorly, silently, begin to recite a single word. The mantra. Ma, ra, na, tha. Now, that comes to you. For me, it's ma, ra, on one breath, and na, tha on the other. Might be easy the first time, but you might find a balance. Ma, ra, na, tha. 4 syllables. Breathe normally and give your full attention to the word as you say it. Silently, gently, faithfully, and simply. The essence of meditation is simplicity. Stay with the same word during the whole meditation and in each meditation, day to day. Don't visualize, but listen to the word as you say it. Let go all thoughts, even good thoughts. No images, no other words. Don't fight your distractions. Let them go by saying your word faithfully, gently, and attentively, and returning to it as soon as you realize you have stopped saying it, or when your attention wanders. Meditation twice a day, morning and evening, for 20 to 30 minutes, was what we hope to get to. So that's what we do now. Just stay as you are, and when you find something coming into your mind, just let it go and come back to your mantra. Ma, ra, na, tha.
now. I was amazed. Beautiful silence. Imagine 56 or so people here, total silence. Have you ever experienced 56 people together with so much silence? I think it's beautiful. And I love this prayer. I really love it. It's for me. Just one thing, two things maybe. Paula, I hope I'm not overrunning too much now.
Take as much time as you want, Father Phil.
Oh, what an even hour.
We are the best prayers here.
There are lots of prayers, of course. This isn't the only prayer. This isn't. You've had lots of different kinds of prayer over the last how many months?
14 weeks.
14 weeks. So this isn't the only prayer, but for me it is the prayer. I love it. I really love it. And I look forward to it. I do it twice a day. I used to only do it once per day, but recently I began to realize that no, I should. So I'm a little bit more. But actually, sometimes during the day when I have nothing to do, I can sit in my chair and I can. I feel I'm in the presence of God. One other small thing that I would like to say, by the way, do you ever hear or see that movie? Julia Roberts is in it. Eat,
Pray, love.
There's a lovely scene in it where she's in Italy, where you eat Italian food, and where she prays, and at the end of it, falls in love with the prayer side. She meets actually an Indian, I think he's Indian anyway, and you know, he said to her, when you pray, he says, there must be a smile on your lips, in your heart, in your liver.
That's it.
In other words, be positive. You have to love God. You have to know you are loved by God to do this prayer. If you are a person who thinks God is the judge, writing down all your failings so that He'll punish you from it, that's not the God to pray to. Jesus taught us a God who's compassionate and loving. I won't say more. I'm finished. Oh yes. So should we say if maybe anybody wants to ask a question?
Yeah.
Would that be alright?
How important is the sitting in opposition? Can you just land out?
Pardon?
How important is it sitting in
It's
opposition?
really important.
I think it is important to be not only silent, but to be still, your body still. You could sit and you could do the yoga position, yes. You could lie on the ground if you wish, I'm sure you could. But be as comfortable as possible, and with your back straight and your head kind of balanced. Don't be looking up, you're not looking up to God, or don't be looking down, your head will fall, you'll sleep. But kind of balance your head on your shoulder, and when you sit down, let your shoulders drop. Don't have tension. I love actually when I'm beginning to pray, I let my hands, even though I'm sitting down, I let my hands drop and I feel that the tension is dropping out, down onto the floor through my hands. So something like that. So position is important, I think, be comfortable with that.
Because also no blocks, you know, like, if you're sitting, your knee this way or that way, you're actually not allowing the air to go right around your body. You know, it's really to keep it moving.
Did you say that do you say the mantra as you inhale and exhale? Both?
I try to disassociate my breathing from the saying the mantra. In the beginning I couldn't, but I just say the mantra and let the breathing come and go as it is. After a time you probably get used to whatever system suits you. But don't tie your breath to the mantra. Let the mantra flow. Breathe, or don't forget to breathe. You need to breathe.
Yeah, because you can end up blaming yourself that you can't do, because this is what I have brought actually in a lot of time. I was going to make this bigger, because that's really what's going on in our brains all the time, all day. There's a million things going round and round and up and down, and most of us forget within about 2 seconds what was, yourself, what did we think about 5 minutes ago that you couldn't tell anybody what was your distraction when you're meditating. We couldn't. I can't. So let it go and just come back to the mantra. Just come back when you see it. when you remember that all. And what it says here, in meditation we seek to get rid of the barriers that we've set around ourselves in our lives, cutting us from our consciousness of the presence of Jesus within our hearts every day, all day. Once we enter into the human consciousness of Jesus, we begin to see as he sees, to love as he loves, to understand as he understands, and to forgive as he forgives. And it says here as well, you're relaxed and you're patient when you're doing it, but you don't blame yourself if you went off. You don't know actually. You might have been 10 minutes away thinking of something else, or it might be 3 minutes. You take a wee look at your phone and you thought maybe it was an hour and a half, and it might only have been 2.5 minutes. You know, there's no way of knowing. But the other, if I can just maybe, that's really how we start, and it gets deeper really for ourselves, and our relationship with God gets deeper, and it's such a wonderful gift really for me. But then I was still teaching, and I'm going to give a few things if you don't mind to say this quickly. Christian meditation is all over the world now, and it's in the schools here in Ireland as well, and they're opening a new place in France, which has been opening in June, I think, and I've been invited over. Because the way it's run is that your own meditation at home, in your own house, your car, or whatever, when you're waiting for somebody, when your family's keeping you waiting, you know, you actually can fall into your 3 or 4 or 5 minutes rather than getting angry with them. You're actually beautifully peaceful because you had a word with Jesus or a breath with Jesus. But the way it's organised anyway is in groups all over the world. So there's a group here, and there's a couple of others in Belfast, and a few out around, and my job is a coordinator for Christian meditation in Northern Ireland, and I link in then with the South and with England, depending on what's on, and you know, they come up maybe and give us a weekend's retreat, or depending on what's on. And Father Lawrence is coming here next year, did I tell you? Yeah, he's coming 2020. So I'll let you all know if you're interested. But the thing about, the other thing that I've written this down because for me this was really important. The way it's organised, the World Community of Christian Meditation, and there's the usual people to do all the management. But the people from UK, Australia, Brazil, Singapore, Canada, United States, that was just in one, managing all over the world, which I think is lovely. You should be sitting down here in your own house and there's somebody else at the same time. But I was at a course in that they do, every year they do a John Main seminar, and different topics are on. But last year it was in Bruges, last summer there, and it really was about, in a sense, business and work. And it was fascinating because the people who were giving the talks were very successful male and women, people with big high jobs, but who were meditators. And what really struck me was, I'm retired now teaching, but young people need to hear that, that there are people who are doing very important jobs in the world, but they're very good and holy people, and they're meditators, and they're there teaching us about meditators, and they'll come to your school, some of them when they're beginning to retire. It was lovely to hear them, I must say. And also, some of them not working in places that might be particularly, yourselves, how to keep your own right and wrong in some of the places that you work with, and where you take it on, and where and I think for young people, there's something for them. And I also then, the last few years where I taught, it was over St. Malachy's, and the boys had no problem at all from 11 to 18 meditating. And nowhere is there a problem with children meditating from right down from their 2 or 3. And you're supposed to teach them, a few minutes of their age. So if they were 5, they could do 5 minutes. So needless to say, the funny lads, 15 in St. Malachy's, oh, well, miss, you must do it for an hour and a half. Like, you must do it for an hour and a half. That's fine, what they like. they had no problem doing it. They had no problem. And what I would say to them, to those that didn't want it, well, this will help your studying. Now, it doesn't mean that you'll have the answer if you didn't do the work. But if you have done your study and you're not able to do something in your exam, then just take a few minutes. Because if you have studied, God knows you have studied, between you and him, you will find what you needed. To say me there now when I couldn't get the words, So, and also all over the world, particularly in Australia, the bishop took really on for all the Catholic schools. Though, by the way, it is not just for Catholics. I think you mentioned that already. It's Christian, but the bishop there took on to all the schools doing meditation, and all of them did, and in all the schools. We haven't got there yet, but that's something that I'm hoping to get on to myself, because it is a gift for them, that they will be able to take that into their into the rest of their lives. That's just, it's not the most important what we're here for, because it's for ourselves and for you if you're interested. But you never know, somebody, a young person who's a teacher or whatever. And the thing then is, it's another thing too, by the way, is if you have time to, and sometimes WCCM is World Community of Christian Meditation, WCCM.org. Now, personally, I think there's far too much on it. I think you just get lost, as I did today when I was trying to find things for you. But it's worth fiddling